welcome. Welcome to Voice Acting from Your Closet. Welcome to Voice Acting from Your Closet. We're going to be talking about how to start up really a voice acting career from your home, which is basically that's what I did. My name is Elspeth Eastman. I've been a voice actor since like November 2012-ish. And I really kind of fell into it. I started off on YouTube. And YouTube is, by the way, guys, if you're thinking about it, do it. YouTube is an absolutely amazing tool to use for voice acting. There are so many people that are going to find you just through YouTube. So if you have any way of recording yourself and you want to put yourself out there, that's the best way to do it. Like, YouTube is phenomenal. It's phenomenal in that department. So I don't know which slide we're showing right now. I have no idea. Oh, that's the joke that I was gonna make. Something about coming out of the closet, but I wrote this when I was really drunk last night. So all of my title slides are gonna be based on my level of sobering up. So that's what you're gonna see. I was just in my bed all right, what the fuck did I put on this? Okay, that sounds good, But so insert joke about coming out of the closet, which is, incidentally, you will be in the closet. You will be, if you're going to do a voice studio by yourself, that is where you're gonna spend the majority of your time. You wanna make that place you wanna make it your own, right? So you wanna make sure that you are comfortable in your closet. If you wanna record in your closet, a lot of people use a little box thing that's soundproofed. But most of the time, people do record in their closet, and it's actually a really nice way to do that because it's an enclosed space, right? So all you have to do is put some foam up on the side. And I had a picture, and my MacBook completely borked as soon as I got to the hotel. I was like, somebody please help me, I don't know what to do about my panel. But so it's all in your closet. So that's the gist of it. So when you start up in your closet, you're like, I really need to feel comfortable in order to voice act. How can I feel comfortable here in my own studio in order to get into that character? So the first thing is you can forego pants. It's the best feeling in the world. You don't have to wear pants at all. And you can wear whatever you want. You can freeball it for all I care. I mean, that's the thing. The director on the other end of the line is not going to know. They're not going to know unless you're video Skyping them, which is very, very rare for voice sessions. You're not going to be doing video because they want you to focus solely on bringing out the character as much as you can in your voice without being worried that you're watched or anything like that. So you can forego pants, which is another way to add that extra layer of comfort. So if you're going to do that, consider also what you want to feel like throughout the session. So if you're going to wear your pajama pants or something, is this fleece too hot? I'm gonna get like monkey butt or something later after being in here for hours on end. But that's really what you want to take into consideration is what you're wearing during the session. And a lot of people don't, and they're like, God, I'm so worked up. I'm so worked up from doing this character. You're so worked up that you build up this sweat because let's say you're doing fighting moves or something like that for a fighting game. You're gonna need to exert yourself a lot. You're gonna need to exert yourself a lot. So again, make sure that your closet is a comfortable space in which you have a lot of room to move around. If you don't have a huge closet, use your room and use a box that covers your voice entirely. But it is good to have room to move and to exert yourself because fighting noises really require a lot of energy. So just make sure if you want to wear pants, make sure that you breathe, wear cotton or some shit like that. Cotton's great. Be comfortable. And that's really another key of, finding your inner voice as well. When you're comfortable doing the character, that's inevitably going to lead to a really great take. And the director's going to know that as soon as you find that character, it's going to be great. And it's going to be a good session. So here's another thing. Your neighbors, unless you have really thick walls in your apartment, your neighbors I've gotten several times, now they all know what I do at this point. I've lived in my apartment building for 2-3 years now, but they all know what I do. And can you guys hear me okay? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure. Okay, right on. I do Twitch as well, so whenever I ask, whenever I do a stream, I'm like, guys, how are my levels? How am I sounding? I want to make sure that the sound is really important. You also want to make sure that you sound great, right? So before you go into a voice session, and by the way, we're going to get into how to do your own voice session, how to conduct a voice session. We're going to get into that as well. but when you're doing a voice session, you want to make sure that your volumes are like tip top. You don't want to do an entire session and find out that like every time you go, ha, 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 like that, it's just been peaking the entire time. And peaking basically means that your volume is crazy. I've sent stuff to my directors back in the day, and they were like, so Elspeth, everything you gave us was distorted, and we don't know what you were doing. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really sorry about that. So you just completely wasted someone else's time. So make sure to check everything, double check what you're doing. That's super important. That goes the same for Twitch, goes the same for YouTube, anywhere where you're going to be recording yourself. You definitely want to play it back as much as possible to really fine-tune your own voice. And a lot of people, how many here have recorded before and heard their own voice? Like, yes, see, that's awesome. God, you guys are amazing. So you know what I'm talking about. The first time I heard my own voice, I was like, oh my God, is that really what I sound like? Do I really sound that bad? And you know, you think like, God, do I sound annoying to other people? But no, you have to put aside that when you're doing like a voice session, when you're doing YouTube, when you're doing Twitch, anything like that, you really have to just build up your confidence in front of the mic, and consistency is key. Just keep doing it. That's one really, really, really important piece of advice, is just to keep going and record as much as you possibly can. So make sure that your levels are really good. Really sorry if I'm throwing too much information at you guys, by the way. I'm like, oh God, what if I need to like take all this into account? So I'm sorry, I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. But yeah, annoy your neighbors. So that's fun. They'll come knocking to your door and like, hey, so did you know that you were screaming for 2 hours at a time? It's like, yeah, I know. I'm really, really sorry about that. But they'll get over it eventually when they find out that that's what you do. But if you guys are looking to make voice acting a full-time thing, it's good to let people around you know what you're doing at least. Because my sister will come home and be like, okay, she's yelling in her closet again, so that must mean that she's doing some sort of session. But so that's fine, and you just make sure your volumes are good. Don't let anything go crazy on your recording session, and just be aware of other people's time when you're in the session as well. You can fart, which is great, because this is great, especially if you're in a Skype call with your director. You can just edit it out. You can be like, you know what? Let me go ahead and take that one more time, because you were just like letting out just something awful in the middle of like the last line or something like that, and they'll just be like, oh yeah, that's totally cool. Just do it again. And the best part is that you're in your own space. Again, it's really, really good to cultivate that space. It's good to make sure that you're fine with not wearing pants and farting and just being in your own element, right? So whether it's in like your bedroom, or it's in like a kitchen closet or something like that, or hallway or basement, anything like that, just make sure that you are very comfortable. Like, I'm stressing comfort because a lot of people will go into a studio and they'll be so nervous that they have performance issues. And so then performance issues are obviously that you can hear that. You can hear that sort of thing when you're listening to the take again. And so your directors, they see that. So it's good to find your element. It's good to find out, if there's any space. Like, how many people here would you say, can you fit something like in your closet? Do you think theoretically you could build like a studio in your closet? Ish. So there are other options too. I mean, you don't even have to build a closet. You can be, some of the first places that I actually recorded was in my bathtub. And I was in college, I was in my bathtub, and I had a box from like Amazon fucking Prime or something like that. And then I had all of this like bed, like mattress foam, and I stuffed it in there. And so then I sat in the bathtub with my microphone like leaning over the bathtub, and I just had like this kind of box helmet on myself. And so then I had my headphones and everything, and I'm in a Skype session with the director. And by the way, this was for Crypt of the Necrodancer, and I recorded like everything in a bathtub. So my directors are like, so hey Elspeth, this is sounding great. We're really liking what you're doing with this character. This is awesome. I'm like, yeah, cool, awesome. So we're having a really good time. And then they're like, there's a little bit of echo coming from your side. And I'm like, oh no, that's awful. But it turned out that it was actually on their side. So stuff you don't even like consider, they're gonna fucking know I'm recording in a bathtub. They're gonna realize that. But just make sure that everything, like your acoustics are really, really good. And by that I mean you don't want anything to echo when you're recording. You want to, if you can talk out loud in a room and you can kind of hear your voice reverberate, that's where you know that you really need to soundproof something. Like, okay, this is going to pick up on the microphone. I need to make sure that this is not going to happen and that they don't hear anything and that it's very, very dense. Like, it sounds like you're very close to the microphone. So you want to condense your stuff as much as possible. But yeah, bathtub necrodancer, that was great. So we were in a Skype call, and that's how I pretty much recorded like everything. But it was because it was a very enclosed space, and nothing was super echoey on my part. So I just found that that's what really worked for me. So if you find any like enclosed area, like maybe a crawl space or maybe some sort of closet anywhere in your house, you can use like a freaking, like some sort of makeshift shoe box if you want to. I had duct taped like a bunch of shoe boxes together at one point before I finally started being able to like afford, you know, professional equipment and like actual acoustic foam. You will find that the more you want it, the more it's just gonna happen for you. You will find a way to do it if you want to do it badly enough. So yeah, you can fart, so that's great. So you can sound important, right? So this is kind of tags on to the whole idea of just recording anywhere, and that's really what the heart of this panel is about, is finding out that you can record anywhere as long as you're determined enough to do it, as long as you're determined to make it sound good and make it sound really, really professional. So what I use is an MXL 990 condenser mic. I've been using them motherfuckers since like 2009, and it is an amazing microphone. I think it's like, this might not sound like too cheap right now, but in the world of microphones, it's like $90 right now, I think, on Amazon. It is so good. It is so good for the price that if you're gonna start up something, it's excellent. I'm gonna say right now that Blue, if you see anything made by Blue, like, try to steer away from it if it's a microphone. Like, they make, okay, the Blue Icicle is what you plug your microphone in so that you can record on your computer. Because you don't have a microphone jack on your computer. But stay away from Blue microphones if you can. Because when I got a Blue Yeti, it was not great for professional recording. So if you want to be professional, just be professional right off the bat. Get yourself a really good condenser mic that is cheap, affordable, and sounds great. So I recommend the MXL, like, to my dying day, I'll be like, that is a great fucking microphone. Sorry if I drop the F-bomb a lot. I also use my shitty MacBook, which died on me. That's why I'm calling it shitty. It died on me this week. I was very upset because I had this whole thing presented, and I was ready, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna rock this panel. And then I was trying to turn it on, and nothing happened. So that's the one that I actually record with, so that's gonna be taken to a Genius Bar and be like, yo, $700, cool. So get yourself a good medium for recording as well. So I've used my MacBook since forever. If you have some sort of laptop that you want to use, that you want to bring with you into your little recording space, that's really good too. That's going to help out a lot if you have something that's very reliable, something that's not going to crash on you. I also use Logic Pro. Any Logic users in here? We have one person? No, just one Logic person. So Logic is an amazing program. I actually started out wanting to write music instead of doing voice acting. That's ever since I was little, I loved writing. I wanted to be a video game composer for as long as I can remember. And that's really what's great, is if you want to do anything audio related, a lot of it is very interchangeable. So you'll have, if you want to do sound design, eventually you're going to have these tools that you've learned with sound design that you can bring over to voice acting, or that you can bring over to music. Yes?
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
I've heard this with streamers. Why isn't the Blue Yeti good? Because that's actually, like, from what I've heard, maybe just low-end, or not low-end, sorry, not very popular streamers use it, but just the quality of the sound, the settings don't quite line up right, or...
It's good for low-end stuff if you're not going to be yelling a lot, if you're not going to be putting a lot of pressure on the mic per se. It might work well with like a pop filter, which is basically what you put in front of the microphone to avoid like that, But for a lot of streamers, ones that I have seen, usually if they're yelling, it's gonna be very loud and most of the time distorted, so it'll end up sounding pretty awful. But that's just my opinion. So if you guys feel like Blue Yeti works for you, absolutely go for it. I just would recommend probably against it just because of volume issues. I've always seen really bad distortion with that sort of thing. And if you look at people, like say if you've got a role model on Twitch, they're probably not using Blue Yeti. They're probably going to be using something a little bit different because it just is not very good for that close contact when a lot of streamers, like if you're gonna play a horror game, you're just gonna be screwed. That's just gonna go crazy. But you made a good point. So if you can afford the Blue Yeti, that's great. You know, do what works for you when you start out. But just keep going. Just keep going until you have that ability, until you can possibly afford a better mic. You know, I remember saving up for all of my things for like a year and a half. It was nuts. And this was actually like real talk. I was super broke. Like my senior year of college, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I have like no money. I'm just like really scared. And eventually, I worked my ass off just day and night trying to get this bachelor's degree in game design. And while that was good, it really didn't help me like financially at all. So remember to keep your finances in order. Just buy what you can afford now, work on that, create a demo that sounds really good, and I promise you, if you keep working at it, you are going to get something amazing. You're going to get stuff that comes to you as long as you put effort into it. It's going to happen, guys. I promise you it's going to happen. So I started off with a Logitech microphone, and it was I think it was like $20 or something like that. And I just started talking into the microphone and just realizing that, gosh, this doesn't sound great right now, but if you keep going, if you start getting these jobs, if you start somehow working your way into the industry, which YouTube is great, I'm gonna stress YouTube again, YouTube is amazing, you'll be able to afford a better one. You just will. It's gonna happen. You will bring that to you, your positivity. You can do it. You can do it. So sound important. Sounding important, sounding professional, fake it till you make it. That is essentially what I did. Just act like you know what you're doing, you know? So when I come into a panel like this, I'm kind of like, I'm really pouring my heart out, like, I still feel like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I am in this session with this director, and they're gonna be like, wow, you know what, you're not a voice actor. What are you even doing? What are you even doing here? But it really does help if you're like, of course, yeah, if that's what you need, you got it, man. I am your person for that. So just sound important, get decent sounding equipment if you can, and just work your way up towards it. One really good avenue to go down is if you can also afford it, if you can go to conventions like MAGFest. MAGFest is freaking amazing because there are audio directors up the waz at this place. There's so many cool people that you will meet here. And if you bring business cards, that's even better. That's gonna solidify you. That's gonna help solidify you in the world of voice acting. Like, this is what I do. I do voice acting. Check me out on YouTube. Check this out. I also got a demo reel. Look at all the stuff I can do. And just letting people know that you exist is super important, guys. So if you're interested in voice acting, that's the key. That is key, is just telling people, yes, I do voice acting, world. Friggin' bring it at me. I am so ready for these jobs. I am ready to do this voice acting. And it also really helps if you can possibly take an acting class or get some sort of background in acting, because that is the second part. And a lot of people forget that. They're just like, well, Elspeth, I can speak into a microphone. It's not that hard. But there is definitely some acting that is heavily involved. You've got to know some acting chops. So it does help to go to classes, to come to my panels, but it's good stuff. So just remember that acting is very important. Zen moments, so it's fine. It's totally fine if you're recording, if you're doing this in a session, if you are one with the character. And by that I basically mean you can just go crazy. And directors often, if you are doing well and if you are really feeling it emotionally, there have been times where this was actually during, when I recorded with Riot, when I was recording for Tristana, they were like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm good. But really, I was really feeling it. Like, I don't know if who here has played League of Legends by any chance? Okay, so we got some League of Legends players. There's an animation when Tristana dies, her dragon crawls up to her like a dog and lays down next to her. And when I saw this animation, I felt so overwhelmed, like, oh my God, that's so sad. And they were like, hey, Elspeth, you good? I'm like, I'm fine. We got this. We're fine. But feel the character. It's really okay. It is okay to feel like you are that character. It's like method acting, right? So like Daniel Day-Lewis does it all the time. Dude is like backstage and he's talking like Cockney or something. They're like, okay, Danny, we got it. Thanks, buddy. Yep, got it. We know you're method acting. But that does help. It really helps to get into the character that you want to portray because, and again, really good directors are going to see that you are putting your effort into this. And don't overdo it. Don't be like, oh, wow, is me. You want to make sure that it sounds believable because you believe it. Lie. It's a lie, right? So acting is lying. So you're telling these people, this is my character, this is a part of me, this is what I want to show you. And that's how really, really, really good actors do it. They just get into character. And I mean, you've probably heard that phrase before, but it's so good to remember that. It's good to remember that that is a character and that you're owning it right now. And this is your time. This is your time to shine. You can do it. That's the best part. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do voice acting. And there are so many naysayers out there who are like, okay, not everybody can voice act, right? Not everybody can do it, but you can. And that's what's amazing is that I started out, when I did this, I actually started out in my dormitory when I was going to school, like with the bathtub thing, and I went for it. And there's a lot that you really have to keep in mind, like these people are gonna be looking at you like a professional. If you're getting paid for it, they want you to act as professional as possible. It's also really good to foster relationships with people when you're not voice acting. So there's a big part of voice acting that's networking. So if anybody has been to the Game Developers Conference, TwitchCon is really good, even for voice actors. If you're going to aspire to do voice acting, TwitchCon's great. There's also VidCon for YouTubers. There's PAXs. There are so many different PAXs. This is where you're going to find all of these different people. There's just a wealth of information that these people can give to you. And it's so good to listen to experts because there's always something that someone knows that you don't know, that you haven't thought of. So it's really, really good to take advice as much as possible from these people who know what they're doing. So as long as you are present, as long as you keep yourself relevant, that's just it's letting people know that you exist. So if you want to start doing voice acting, it's really good to start off at a convention. So like, since you are all here at MAGFest, this is an amazing start. You've got a head start on freaking everybody out there. This is a convention. If you see people who are possibly at like a same party or at the same bar, start talking about what you're doing, give anyone your card. There was one circumstance where a game that I worked on called Darkest Dungeon, I actually met the guy, Tyler Sigmund. He's like the developer. And I met him I was on my way to the bathroom, and he said, your shoelaces were untied, and that started our conversation. That was our conversation starter. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. And then he complimented me on my shoes. I was like, oh, yeah, thanks. You have a rad haircut. Boom. Then you start this conversation. Then you have this relationship with people where it's like, I didn't even think that, we were going to start talking. I didn't think that this was possible to start talking to these people because we imagine them. I mean, I guess I still do. I still imagine people as bigger than me. I still imagine them as like they're up here and I'm down here. And that's where you have to just let that go. You have to let it go. You have to be confident. You have to be confident in your abilities enough to go up to people. You have to just let that shyness out the door. And what's amazing is that, and this is gonna make me a little emotional, but a lot of people have come up to me and been like, I love your work, I love what you do, can you help me? Can you help me do more of that? And that's exactly what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go up to your role models and be like, gosh, you're great, I love what you do. Start off with a compliment. Everybody loves being complimented. There's no one who's gonna be like, why would you say that about my hat? What the fuck is wrong with you? Get away from me, loser, right? So everyone loves a compliment. So it's really good to lead in with a compliment to people. So while voice acting is amazing, and while acting is a very big part of it, and sounding professional is great, largely it is about who you know. It's about who you're friends with. It's about who you're willing to establish a connection with, and who you're willing to foster that connection with, and just keep that going. If you can, make cold calls to people, be like, yo, I still exist, what's going on, you wanna get lunch? Cool. Like, that's something that you've solidified for yourself. Just remember that it's really, really good to keep people in mind, keep people's time in mind, and not just yourself, like, gosh, I really hope I get paid for this. I better be getting paid for this. Elspeth said I'd be getting paid for this. When am I getting the money? So it's like you have to know what people want from you. You have to know what they expect. So it does take a lot of people skills. When I went to the Game Developers Conference in like 2011, I think was my first time, I was so nervous. I brought CDs, like actual physical CDs with myself, and I was like, I'm gonna hand out my demo reel to anybody who looks like they're super important. So that did not go very well at all, because the first person I handed it to, they were like, you know how many of these I see? Do you know how many of these I see, like, a week? I was like, you know what, man, I didn't even consider. I did not consider that you probably get swamped with all of this kind of stuff. You probably just get loaded with this sort of thing, so it's really good to also keep it simple at first interaction, right? So you want to keep it simple. If you have, like, a business card, that's great. If you even have, like, if they're sitting next to you, one of the jobs I first got was a game called The Traveler, and the guy who was sitting next to me, I had my iPad, and I was listening to my own music, and he goes, what are you listening to? I'm just like, well, this is actually some music that I wrote. If you'd like to hear it, go for it, you know. I didn't know what he did, and he is now a director at Disney, and he is working at Shanghai Disney, and he is a great connection. And I met this guy freaking years ago. You never know. You never know. So always be prepared to have an interaction, because you freaking never know who is going to talk to you. You never know who you're gonna meet. So conventions are really, really good for interaction. And even your friends, even people that you know now, you never know who knows somebody else. You never know how far away you are from fucking Kevin Bacon, right? Like, he's out there somewhere, and you're like, I know that, like, I'm like 2 degrees away from that guy, and someday I'm gonna be like, yo, we're on the same plane now, what up? We're on the same degree, Kevin Bacon, what up now? So it's really good to remember, confidence is key. You know, don't overdo it. Let people know you exist. Sound professional. Fake it till you make it, and just go with it. You know, just go with it. And one of my favorite quotes, well, it's not actually a quote. I'm gonna, like, paraphrase here. Tina Fey said that she says yes to everything. And I fucking love Tina Fey. I think she's a comedic genius. But if you say yes to as much stuff as possible, like, I've gotten asked for, like, hentai a couple times, and I'm like, no, thanks, I'm good. You know, well within your limits, right? So do what makes you feel comfortable, but say yes to everything that you feel you can do, everything that you possibly, even things you think you can't do. Say yes. Like, it's great. That sort of thing is awesome. I did the hag for the Darkest Dungeon, and I was like, dude, I don't think I'm old enough. I don't think I have, like, the vocal range for this sort of thing. And they were like, no, you got this. So it was just grunting. It was a lot of grunting and just being very, very angry at life and just hating things. So do things that are outside of your comfort zone with voicing. It's cool. You can practice. Use a lot of things to your advantage. Like, think of it as a learning experience. Everything is a learning experience. And it's really, really hard sometimes to stay positive, because you're like, I think I messed that whole session up, and I'm gonna send it to them, and they're gonna hate me, and they're never gonna hire me again. But as long as you're professional, as long as you keep it awesome and stay happy about everything. Directors love happy people. They don't like working with sad people. There were a couple times where I've heard horror stories about people who are just starting off with their voice journey, who are like, yeah, okay, cool, all right, yeah, sounds great. And they're not enthused about the project. Like, who wants to work with somebody who's not excited about this project? I would be like, yo, first of all, I don't know what this is. I'm just doing this because I'm just doing that. But I would be like, I don't want to work with this person. They're not excited about this project that I just offered them. So show excitement, show passion, be passionate about stuff. That's great. Directors love that sort of thing. They want to work with you if you're passionate and happy. So that's like a great starting point. Oh my God, it's already 3 o'clock. Holy crap. So we're gonna open it up for Q&A. If you guys want to do some Q&A. And I don't actually know how we're supposed to do this, so I guess we just kind of go for shit in the audience. Hello. Hi.
So aside from, like, networking,
Oh.
existing connections,
Yeah.
what other methods do you use to kind of bring in work? Are there things you look at, places you go to, how do you find that out?
Absolutely. One of the first things I did was YouTube, and I actually reached out to other YouTubers who were in need of some sort of voice actor. If they looked like they were doing animation, and I was really a fan of that sort of animation, I would ask, hey, have you ever considered voice acting for your projects? And that's actually worked out a couple times. I've worked with lots of League of Legends YouTubers. I've worked with Uber Danger. I've worked with another brand called Yo Mama, who at this point I'm just like, I wonder if that's still relevant. But they reach out to them. A lot of cold calls will be made if you're looking to do voice acting, because, you know, not everyone's not gonna know who you are, first off, but it's good to reach out to people. YouTube is great, Twitch is a great option. Oh, by the way, get a Twitter. Everybody get a Twitter, right now. If you don't have a Twitter, get a Twitter. I'm serious. I hated Twitter. I was like, what is the point of Twitter? What do you do with Twitter? It's just like Facebook. It's just like little mini statuses. This is so dumb. But what's interesting about it is that Twitter actually is very just like little blips like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Good to see you. Bless up. You know, you just like send all this stuff to people, and it's not invasive. It's not invasive. If you're really annoying, I guess they can block you, but it's very non-invasive. And people can follow you very easily. It's very easy to use, and it's very easy to market yourself on Twitter, because the more retweets you get, the more people are gonna be like, oh, that person's voice acting. Oh, I really like their demo reel. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Twitter's great. Game Developers Conference I can't recommend highly enough. That is where you will find like the nucleus of game directors, and a lot of them are very, very, very cool people. They're very, I think the word is down to earth. They're very down to earth. They're very awesome to work with, and they love talking to people. So Game Developers Conference is great. I recommend PAX. PAX is more of like a trade show, but still, you never know who you're gonna find there. If it's game-centric, if it is centered around games, and some of you might wanna do animation. If you're looking to do animation, you might wanna head to like Texas, because there's a bunch of animation conventions down there. I actually really haven't been to any animation conventions per se, because I'm mostly in gaming, but still, same ideal, same principle. You're gonna meet people as long as you try and are there and are present. Get a website. Websites are awesome. If you have something that's very simple, I have ElspethEastman.com, and for my Twitch, I have Elspeth.tv. I was like, score. But if you have a website, it's very easy for people to just locate you. And that's what Google's gonna bring up as well. Google is going to be like, yo, I'm your friend, I got you. And the first thing that's gonna come up is usually gonna be your website. So it's very important to market yourself. Just find every possible way. There's also stuff like Fiverr, where you can go on and be like, hey, I'm gonna loan you my voice for like $5. What do you need? You need like some sounds, you need some of this, blah, blah, blah. And people they'll reach out to you because you're there. Again, it's just existing. I hope I answered your question. Okay? Yeah? Okay, cool. Sorry, man. Yeah, you.
That's all good. This might be a specific case. I think I have the right closet. I think I have carpeting and all that good stuff.
Okay.
I don't have bar. Phone, laptop, I have a tower, there's a vent in the room, so
Yeah.
I'm afraid of all that white noise.
Right.
Given what I have, what could I do at this moment leading up to getting something like a MacBook or having phone on the walls?
What you're doing right now is really good. If you want to start, do you have any way to record yourself? Because if you have a way to record yourself and you have a way to listen back to what you're doing, you could theoretically make a demo reel right now. If you have a microphone and you want to put that in that closet, you could make a demo reel. And it might not sound that great at first, because if you don't have the phone, you don't have it. But if you are able to, you can put your stuff on Fiverr. Like I said, it's really easy. Also, Newgrounds. If anybody is a Newgrounds user, oh my God, I love Newgrounds so much. You're gonna find some really amazing people on Newgrounds as well who listen to demo reels. They will listen to it, they'll critique it. That's another really good way to market yourself. But if you can, acoustic phone, by the way, it's like $5, I think, for like that much. So that's actually all I need. It's like this, and then this, and then this. And I'm doing a visual representation because I don't have a picture because my MacBook broke. But it's very easy. It's very easy to get that sort of thing. And Amazon is like, yeah, sure, why do you need all this phone? But yeah, that's great. It's very cheap. It's very, very surprisingly cheap. And if it says acoustic foam, by the way, I just remember this. If it says acoustic foam, they're trying to rip you off. Just get like eggshell. Look up eggshell, because it's the same, it's like practically the same thing. And if they're like, oh, acoustic foam, you must want the high-end quality gray stuff. We're gonna put this out here for $50. Like, no, I'm just gonna get eggshell, dude. But yeah, get eggshell if you can. It's cheaper, very reliable. And then if you have doors that close, if you have a sheet, like a bed sheet, pin it up somewhere. That helps mute noise as well. So you've got a great start, for sure. For sure, yeah. What's up?
Content-wise, where's a good place to start with creating your first demo reel?
One of the places I used was YouTube, and that was only because it was mostly on a whim. I really wanted to do League of Legends impersonations, because I thought, like, there are tons of characters in that game. There are tons of voices in that game, which leads to possibly a really great sort of makeshift demo reel, right? So if you're doing all these different voices, people are going to be able to hear that. Even though I used a lot of voice effects, you could still hear inflection. You can still hear the differing qualities, the differing timbres in voices. So YouTube is great. If you want to make a demo reel, I usually put it on, well, actually, no, you can't because SoundCloud apparently is dying, so don't use SoundCloud. But if you can do YouTube, YouTube's always great. If you have a Twitter, make a demo reel, put it on YouTube. And also, here's the thing, even though it's audio, people still really love visuals. Like, we are a very visual race. We like seeing other people's faces. We like knowing what they look like. So it's good to put your face out there as well. So if people ever see you, they're like, hey, you're that one person that does the voice acting, don't you? So it's good to make sure that people know what you look like as well. So that's another issue of confidence that I was like, oh my God, I can't put my face out there. This is gonna be awful. But it's good to put yourself out there as much as possible. It's not like with your donger hanging out or something. Nobody wants to see that right away. But but yeah, it's for sure YouTube. YouTube is great. Twitter's another really good method for pinning your YouTube demo reel. So recommend YouTube highly. Yes.
What's a good way to develop your ear for all of these fine terms within audio, including your performance?
Sure. I think one of the best things you can do is, well, I play a lot of games. Are you looking to get into gaming? Or really just anything?
Kind of more like anything.
Yeah. I think, and this is going to sound a little phony, but play as many games as you can, watch as many animations as you can, and really listen. Listen to what the voice actors are doing. If you need to, turn away from the television for a second and be like, okay, I hear what they're doing with their voice. I hear what they're doing with their diaphragm, which is where okay, everybody tighten your stomach right now. Tighten your stomach. That's what you're going to use if you want to do something that exerts you, like, ha, ha, yeah, like that. That's going to be something that helps you a lot. So it's really also good. Wikipedia is freaking great, guys. Like, Wikipedia, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with Wikipedia and learning about voice techniques. I'm pretty sure they just have a page that's dedicated to voice techniques. But listen, really listen to as many things in games as animation as you can, like forthcoming. Just be like, okay, I'm gonna start listening to this person. And if there's someone that you think is along the same range as you, you seem like a mid to low kind of range, like vocal range. A lot of anime uses a lot of mid to vocal range. I don't know if you're into anime, but that's a really good starting point because they're so emphatic. They place a lot, especially I'm talking about like if it's dubbed, like English dubbed, unless you understand Japanese, in which case God bless. But if you want to do that, it's really good to listen to anime voices because they're very, very colorful and they are using a lot of their voice, a lot of their character. So just listen to as much as you possibly can. Really try to fine-tune your ear and try to replicate some of your favorite voice artists. That's another great thing, is that you can just imitate them. Imitation was really how I got to what I was doing. It's like, that's all right, I'm going to imitate the League of Legends characters, and now I'm a League of Legends character, and it's freaking weird, so it's kind of crazy. Doom Shizzle! Hi. I guess another part of that is really having an acting. It helps to have some sort of acting class or acting background. If you can do acting classes, dude, that's super helpful because a lot of it you'll learn how to improv. Improv is great. Accents are really, they're just learning. It does take a bit of a musical ear to understand where this accent is coming from. If it's Irish or Scottish, which by the way I'm terrible at Scottish accents. But just really listen to them as much as possible. It's kind of like the same deal, just learning how to fine-tune your voice. It's the same thing with accents. Just being around them, you'll find that you are better. You're better because your ear is like, okay, I can pick that up. That's freaking Bulgarian or something. I don't know. I don't know how to do a Bulgarian accent. I don't even know if there's such a thing. But, dude, what was your other question? Yeah. I I got him? Sweet, okay. But yeah, just listen to as much as you possibly can. And listen to other people's demo reels too. You always want to listen out. I know it's kind of weird, but listen for your competition as well. Like everyone's, technically, you will be competing with other people for voice. So you want to listen to other people and make sure that you're ahead of the game in your pronunciation and your accents. You want to make sure you got very demo reel and let people know that you can do all this stuff. Yes, sir.
You mentioned YouTube a lot, and you talked about like sending out things to animators about how to get it working. You mentioned posting your demo reel there. Is there other things you can do on YouTube specifically to try and like take first steps in doing your career?
For voice acting, I don't think there's anything too specific. What they'll do is they'll probably place you in music or creation. If you start labeling yourself as like entertainment, that's where I am, because that's ultimately what voice actors do is entertain. But one of the main things that really helped, and this is maybe a little bit unorthodox, but what I did was I went after the Game Developers Conference in 2011, I went and I friended every single person who I had a business card of. I took a bunch of business cards. After that, I had a bunch of directors on my feed who probably never paid attention to me really in the first place, but if you post something on there and you're friends with that person, they're gonna see it. They're gonna see it immediately as opposed to someone who's just randomly browsing YouTube. So it's good to have connections. I know that's a little bit kind of out there as an answer, but that's really how it helped me a lot, was having those connections prior. So if you have connections, that's really good. But YouTube probably will not help promote you because they really didn't do too much for me in the way of like promotion, like video-wise. They were just kind of like, well, there you go. We're watching you sail, Viking funeral, goodbye. They really don't care. They don't care too much about it. So it's good to just post it as much as you can. If you want to make like a Facebook fan page for yourself, if your name is something like short, like John Smith, use like your middle name too, because that looks super official, right? Like Daniel Day-Lewis. No one was like, oh yeah, Daniel Lewis, goodbye. Daniel Day-Lewis, though. You know, that guy has it going on. So if you have a shorter name, it might be privy to use a middle name so that it kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit easier. I'm not super fond of my middle name, but maybe some of you are. So that's really good to let yourself stand out is your name. So just, let people know that you're there. So YouTube is a little bit difficult. Twitter's great. I know I keep emphasizing Twitter, but as long as you do something on YouTube and you keep doing it, if you keep doing it and you're good and you learn and you fine-tune your voice, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And send out your reel to just people who you don't even talk to. Be like, hey, you look like you need a voice. Here's my demo reel, and just keep it really short, really sweet, and don't impose on anything. And if they don't answer you back, just like, okay, next guy. So that's really how that happens. Yes, Ian. Yeah.
Like a lot of the actors we talk about how they got physical, they'll actually act out the scene.
Yes.
The microphones, get the voices right, actually be prepared.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, do you have any memorable experiences that you want to share? Behind being behind the
Yeah, I punched through a wall once. No joke. I was in, this was in the same building, but I actually physically was punching because they want you to punch, they want you to kind of get that, like that sound. They want to hear you like swinging. And so the wall was like right here because my closet's like this big. And so I just went, bam, right through the wall. And it was, okay, well, it was painful, obviously. But I made like no sound. And the director was like, hey, Elspeth, you all good over there? I was like, we're good, Chief. We're all good. Solid, Captain. And so then I like seriously had bruised knuckles for forever. But worth, because it was part of my, what's that? They did not actually know, because I think they just assumed I bumped into the wall or something like that. So just, it was, they didn't really take anything out of that. But yeah, I usually don't tell directors when that sort of thing happens. It's like farting. You're just like, can we do that take again? Although in this case, I was like, hey, can I like go to the hospital real quick? But yeah, so I definitely like punched a wall. It was brutal. It was really brutal. Yes?
How do you feel, what is your opinion on using breathing and breath during recording?
Oh man, that's such a good question. So, okay. you want to you want to concentrate. You want to be aware of your breathing. Like, you want to be aware of pretty much everything that's coming out of your mouth, right? Even if you're like spitting on the mic, that's okay. Your mic usually doesn't mind. But breathing is where, if you're reading like a really long sentence and you want to talk for a really long and extended period of time and you want to make sure that everybody hears all of your words, you don't want to take like so you have to be aware to like where to draw the line and how many sentences you can actually, handle before you have that really sharp intake of breath, because that's just going to sound like, wow, are they like dying? Do we need to worry about them? But usually my limit for myself, how many words I can read at a time before taking a breath, is like 2 or 3 sentences. So I'll have 2 or 3 sentences, and then I'll take a quick breath, and then I'll start off again, take a quick breath, so that it sounds very natural, so it sounds organic, and not like, oh, please help me. You want to make sure that it sounds normal. So that's also really good practice. If breathing practice is really good. If you have some way of recording yourself, just start like a freaking run-on sentence. Like, I think if you go to the Ray Romano Wikipedia page, like they took it out so that they has like no commas in the whole thing, so you can just read that to yourself, and then practice, breathing and seeing how many lines at a time you can actually handle. That is a great question. You're awesome. Yes.
Okay, I'm a voice actor for a couple of years now, but still the one thing that still eludes me, the one thing is the noise that the laptop makes.
Oh.
I still can't figure that out. Do you have any recommendations of like taking my laptop into the closet and getting it to just shut up?
So I know exactly what you mean. My laptop is about 3 years old. Rest in peace, because I don't think it's coming back on. But it does does yours have like a really bad fan or something like that?
It's not too old, so the fan isn't too bad, not as bad as my old one was.
Yeah.
There's still that symbol there that's just like that the mic does pick up.
Yeah. So
I have to leave my laptop out of the closet.
that's what I do.
I have the script there to read it, so it just
Right. That's where it helps to have a condenser mic, because if you have yourself blocked off, what he asked was, do you have any way of reducing the amount of noise that comes from your laptop? And that is exactly what you should be doing, is blocking that noise as much as you possibly can. I have closet doors that close, so I can't hear like any fan or anything that's going off on my laptop. But if you can, and this might be a little, this might be edging towards, stuff bursting into flames, you want to like put like a blanket or some shade, like a lampshade over it, something that covers the noise, or maybe just, if you can, out of the room entirely if you have a really long ass cord, like for your headphones or something, because you don't want that to end up in your recording. And condenser microphones, what they'll do is like, they will bring everything within like, it's like a 10 to 15 foot radius or something like that. They'll only record like that space if it's in like an enclosed area. They really will not pick up like super bad crackling or something. So I hope that helps. I had the exact same issue for a really long time, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I actually didn't, I don't think I used any, as far as like holding my face like downward or anything, or going like this, like doing the Stevie Nicks, like, I didn't do anything like that. But I definitely changed my voice a lot. I figured, if you're gonna mess with if you're gonna put like digital effects on it, you're really going to fine tune that impersonation. You're going, like, for example, Cho'Gath is a character in League of Legends, and a lot of what he does is just like, that's all he does. But it sounds terrible when it's coming from me, so you have to use vocal effects, because that's what, incidentally, what Riot Games does, is they use voice effects. But no, I did actually, I haven't done anything physical. I think maybe I've done like an underbite for an orc at some point, like a really angry orc. And they were like, okay, that doesn't work, we can't hear you. It sounds like you're speaking into a blanket, so. But yeah, nothing super physical, I don't think. I'm gonna get back to you, because I'm gonna think on that, because I don't actually know that. Yes? I use Logic Pro, and it's, to be exact, it's Logic Pro 9, and it's on the MacBook, but a lot of people use Audacity, they'll use Fruity Loops, they'll use Pro Tools, you can use, there are a bunch of recording programs that have come out in the last 2 years, too, that I have no idea if you Google recording program for PC or recording program for Mac, I assure you, you will find something amazing. And the only reason I don't know about them is because I've been super slacky, but I was totally fine with Logic. I was fine with how Logic worked, and since it was working so well for me, I didn't really feel the need to switch. But I'm preaching against what I do. It's good to be up to date on what sort of programs are available. So I would recommend if you have PC, Audacity. If you have Mac, everything is like super expensive for Mac, so it's kind of ridiculous. So I would just get a PC and save yourself the money. Yes.
So when you started out with voice acting, what were your comfort levels for figuring out your voice? Like, did you jump straight in to try and do as many different types of characters, like different accents, different like ranges for yourself, or did you try to find like your comfort level with your own voice before branching out?
Oh, that's a great question. She asked if there's where I found my comfort level, if I use my own voice first, or if I use my own voice first, or if I just jumped into it with different accents and stuff like that. For as long as I can remember, I've been, my parents were very theatrical. They have like theater backgrounds and stuff like that, so I've been messing around with voices ever since I was little. My mom was like, "You're made for Twitch," because I used to talk at the television. I would talk at video games and just like try to imitate all the different voices. So I guess you could say I sort of jumped right into it, and I was really more unaware of what my own voice sounded like. So in actuality, I'm still sort of perfecting my natural voice. I really, I find sometimes it's much easier to go into a character voice. It's much easier to do this than like just to, perfect your normal voice and be calm and relaxed. It's harder for me to do that. So I think one of my very first project that I worked on for games was Crypt of the Necrodancer, and they wanted someone that was very low. And my voice is not really super low. Like I can go lower, but it does take some effort. So that's where I got a little bit scared with that. But after you've spent like time in front of the microphone, after you have built up a good friendship with a director, they realize that you're trying, and you eventually just kind of get into this comfort level where it's like, okay, that was a great take, awesome. So it's practice, practice makes perfect, and just being very consistent with recording and listening to yourself in the microphone. Like, I can't stress that enough. I've listened to myself so many times now, I'm just like, okay, I know that's my voice, it's like watching paint dry pretty much. So, but yeah, that's a great question. Yes?
Yeah, so I remember you said something about acting classes. So
Yeah.
would you recommend to take theater classes at
Yes, take theater classes if you can, even as like, what are those extracurricular? Take like an extracurricular class in theater if you possibly can. Theater is great, especially if you want to do character acting. That is amazing, amazing practice. Because what it'll do, not only will it teach you to project, it'll teach you to project your voice, but a lot of voice actors have a professional background in theater, like Laura Bailey. Bless, I love Laura Bailey. She's one of my favorite voice actors. She was actually found when she was acting in a theater production for voice roles, like as a kid. She did that well at projecting. So it's really about, being confident and finding your voice. Like finding your voice is really important first, but just project and know that you can do this. And then theater is amazing because they will teach you. They'll teach you how to project. They will teach you how to say your words and that you must move your mouth like this. And it's really weird at first because you have to, like, here's one example. I can't remember what the game was. I think it was, Guns of Icarus. They were like, okay, so what we want you to do is say, I have the bomb, or something like that. And I had such a difficult time saying bomb because they were like, okay, it just sounds like palm for us. We can't hear that you're emphasizing the B or not, so you have to go bomb. That sounds so, like, it's so foreign to think about that kind of thing. You're like, this sounds so dumb. But on a recording, it sounds completely different. It sounds legitimate, like you're actually saying bomb, So when you hear it, it's like, okay, yeah, bomb, whatever, that's great, Elspeth. But it's very different when it comes to recording. So they'll teach you how to enunciate and project. And if they're a good theater teacher, you don't want to like just get a class where someone sits around and is like, okay, cool, Fiddle on the Roof, go for it, awesome. Absolutely. I think that for me, that kind of goes without saying, is that voice lessons are very important. If you have anyone that you especially look up to, whose voice you might even admire, and they might not even been the voice acting, just be like, can you talk a little bit? Can we just sit here? Can we just talk and like have a conversation? Is that okay? And just listen to how they conduct themselves. Listen to how they speak. You know, their mannerisms. Try to imitate that if that's something that you really like. You know, it might be really weird for your friend. They're gonna be like, I thought we were just like getting pizza and broing out, but you're like staring at me all weird and shit. But you know, it might work out for you. I mean, that's what I've done with my friends, and now I don't have any friends. Yes. Yeah.
I am an actor and I use Backstage for most of the listings and stuff. Is there also a voiceover website where you can go and find listings via, various filters and whatnot?
There's actually, oh God, I think it's something. There it is. What is it? Behind the Voice Actors is amazing. That's great. Thank you. There's also, I think there's something called Voice 101 or Voices 100 or something like that. Thank you. This woman over here, you are awesome. Yeah, right? Voices 123 is great as well. If there's another, I know I keep sounding like a broken record, but Google is actually really amazing for that sort of thing, and you will find a lot of places where you can just start out and put your voice on somewhere, and Google will be like, here you go, just look up voice acting websites, and it'll show you a lot of places where you can put your voice reel up where people are also voice acting. It's freaking amazing, and you'll also be a part of that community once you start communicating with other voice actors. You know, it's really good, even though you are technically competing in a sense, you're going to establish this rapport with other voice actors, and they're going to be like, hey, so-and-so, since I'm a male, they're a female, you know, we could bring them in for the female role, and that's not going to hurt you, so that's great. But just keep in mind other people who are also doing the same things, and if you can, it really doesn't hurt to help other people along the way. Like, a little help will go a long, long way. Yes? I'm probably like one of the worst people to ask for that because I'm terrible at doing voice warm-ups. This is another part of where the confidence thing plays into it a little bit. If I just stand there and go, mama, or something like that, I'm just like, wow, I'm an idiot. But it's really good. It's really good to start in like the lower part of your voice and just work it up and kind of go like Martha Stewart with it, and then work your way up as low as you can possibly go, and maybe even singing. If you can't sing, just yell. Yelling also really helps strengthen your diaphragm. And just remember to like keep your stomach really, really tight, especially if you're gonna do like fighting scenes or there's a really tense moment or something like that. Chapstick freaking helps. Like, freaking shout out to you again for this freaking chapstick because my lips were really, really dry from drinking so much alcohol last night. Yes? Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it becomes very natural after you've done it for a while. But in the beginning, did you keep track of the voices that you knew you could do in some way, or did you just give it all the time?
I guess I kind of, to be honest, I kind of kept it up top. One of the things that made it really easy was making a reel. Because I knew that I could do the voices on my reel, a lot of people would be like, can we get the voice at 27 seconds? Do you think you can do that for us? So that's not only is it a great promotional tool, but it is a great way for you to go back and reference, can I freaking do this voice? And yeah, you'll find out that you can do that voice. And it's really just about recording, and just taking the best bits of what you like. There have been some times where I've recorded things, I'm like, what was I doing? You know, like, it gets so foreign at sometimes. Like, if you say word enough, it's not a word. You're just like, word. What year is it? You don't understand after a while, you know? It just becomes very, very strange to keep repeating the same script over and over. So it's good to find a voice that you like. Most of the time, it's just your normal speaking voice, and just practice reading stuff, which is, I hope I answered your question, kind of, sort of. Yes?
I know you mentioned GDC briefly. I'm going for the first time this year with a few friends who are trying to get into team audio.
Yay!
And I was just wondering if you had any advice for some people that are just trying to meet some cool people there and everything. So it's going to be so new to us. We're hoping to meet just some cool people doing the same kind of stuff that we're into.
Yes, go to the W. I think it's every Wednesday night. Audio people meet there. It's usually like 8 or 8:30, and that's where a bunch of audio directors will meet. And I hope I don't like get lambasted like, Elspeth, why would you still meet that W? But a lot of people that I know who are audio directors, they will organize an event, and it is usually at the W, which is an amazing, amazing place. It's like super huge, and they're all really nice there, and they've got couches and shit. It's super cool. Also, take the audio track if you possibly can. If you're just going for, like, I don't know how many X amount of days you're going for, but if you can, go for the audio track. That was what I did my first year, and it was so helpful because not only are you going to be on the audio track with other audio people, you're going to be sitting next to people who are either directors or they're interested in the field or they're people who are already working in the field, quite possibly just, all three. So really, audio track, anything that says audio, go to it. Just go. Just gravitate towards that. That's really important. Yeah. Tips and tricks that I don't expect to know going in. Knowing how to pronounce names. So if someone is like, yes, this is King blah, 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 I'm like, wait, how do I read this? You want to make sure to peruse the script that you are reading. If you are reading a script, you want to make sure that you're saying it right. If it's a remote session where there's no director at all, you want to make sure that you know how to pronounce everything. Because if you send it to them, they're like, actually, it's King blah, 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 blah. You messed this up entirely. It's good to know what you're saying. Also, it's really, really good to know your mic placement. If your mic has, sometimes you might not know it, but if you bump the microphone, that can drastically affect your recording. So you want to make sure that your mic is in placement and that everything, you double check everything. And like I said, recording does take a lot of the edge off beforehand, before a session or something like that. So tips and tricks really just, again, be comfortable. Wear comfy clothes or wear no clothes, whatever, I'm not no judge here. But yeah, I guess a lot of it is just finding it out when you're in the session. Sometimes it just sneaks up on you. There was one session where I was with the director and the Skype call kept dropping. So it's always really good to have a backup as well. Thank God we had like Discord because Skype is slowly going down. I don't know where Skype's going. But it's really good to have an alternate method of communication if you are going to be doing a live session as well. Because, stuff over the internet sometimes. Crazy internet, it's so nuts. I think we can take just one more question. We're going over a little bit. Yes?
Got here a little late, so apologies if you already did. You're talking about using a laptop to record. If you were to use like any kind of an actual digital recorder, what would you use?
You know what? I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I've never actually used just a digital recorder. I've only ever used my laptop. And that's because a digital recorder, when you're holding it, it might actually be, you might jiggle it, you might bump it into something. It's not as reliable as a microphone that's just standing there static waiting for your input. So digital recorders, you might be able to like wave it around a lot, and that might be good for traveling. It might be good to just take it with you somewhere, but ultimately not as reliable. So I would definitely recommend. Okay, Stitch, what's up, man? Yes. Noisy computer fans. See, Skitch is way better at this stuff than I did. Also, can we get a hand for Skitch real quick? Because he helped me make this when my computer busted. And I think we've gone over our time. You guys are freaking amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was an honor to speak for you guys. Thank you. Have a great MAGFest.